Welcome back to the Becoming Number One podcast, where our goal and mission is to help you become the best version of yourself while we are on our own pursuit to become the best versions of ourselves.
Welcome back to another episode, David.
Welcome back, Aidan. Wow.
Wow, what?
You know what I was thinking about? I was thinking about how we moved the podcast from a spare room in my house into the office, and it made everything a lot more efficient.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be honest. Filming this used to be kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
We'd do it on a Saturday morning after working out. Mm-hmm. We'd have to drive. I mean, realistically, it's not like we really live that close to each other. It's about,
it's not that far.
35, 40 minutes.
That's not
it doesn't feel far, but two ways.
Yeah.
Damn near an hour plus. But we'd film it. We'd probably only have time to film one because it's a Saturday, and we always got stuff going on the weekends. So now, granted, it's been a while since we've been here. It's quite nice.
Yeah, I agree. We even painted the wall black.
Yeah, except this one's white.
Yeah,
so now it looks like I'm in the middle of an Oreo.
Well,
oopsies.
But it was efficient.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of what we're trying to do right now is, in both of our lives, is have efficiency.
Yeah.
Would you agree? With business, with like personal, just have an efficient life. And I think when you strive to have an efficient life, things are just better. Things move smoother. It's like a well-oiled machine.
I agree. Well, I think inefficiency, at least for me, breeds chaos.
Yeah.
And I don't like that.
Correct.
You know, I think there's an allure. There's something kind of nice about the thought of kind of bootstrapping a business, say, and just living in the chaos. Like, it sounds kind of appealing. It sounds like you're getting shit done. Mm-hmm. There's all this stuff going on. But in reality, especially drawn out over any meaningful extent of time, it sucks.
Yeah.
Chaos is not fun to operate in for a long time.
Correct. At the beginning, it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay in bits and pieces.
Yeah, as you grow a little bit, and you just realize, okay, well, we should probably dial this thing in a little bit so it works smoother and it's better for everybody. But with efficiency, you also get freedom.
Yes.
With efficiency, you get freedom. And when it's inefficient, there can be less action. There can be, in the word itself is inefficient. And that can also cause a lot of problems outside of the chaos. But when there's inefficiency, the action is not there. So what's actually going to get done when it's inefficient is, super low compared to if everything was efficient, everything was running smoothly, and it was a well-oiled machine. There's a big gap in between. So I look at it as, okay, what are the results that I currently want to get? Where can I go in and where can I make my life, the business, the systems, the processes more efficient? Very simple. Because as humans, we try to make things complex.
Yep.
Right? Like, I'll catch myself doing it when I'm trying to build out systems. It's super complex when it shouldn't be complex. And if I make it simple, everyone will understand it and can run a lot smoother. And I heard this thing one time from a mentor of mine. He says, when I'm building systems, but this can apply to any area of your life, when you build out a system, someone should be able to explain it to a second grader.
I think I completely agree with you. And what I think it is making it complex strokes the ego.
Yeah.
Like, it makes you feel intelligent. It makes you feel like you put together something meaningful, but it is just by and large inefficient. And if you're, I guess you got to ask yourself, what's more important? Is stroking my ego more important, or is actually having something that's going to operate well within a business or your life more important?
Yeah.
And it sounds like, obviously, super successful people have realized that your ego doesn't mean shit.
No, but it does too. It does and it doesn't. Yeah. That's a separate conversation.
Yeah, that is a long drawn out conversation.
You need to have it, but you need to be able to control it.
Correct. And that's one of those places where your ego doesn't need to be bolstered up, because it would be at the detriment of everybody else on your team.
Correct.
And that's, like David said, I think we were kind of spitballing what we're going to talk about here, because we got a lot that we're going to ramp up at the moment. But finding efficiency in our life our lives is pretty much the sole focus this week. Because for us, speed has been the thing to keep in mind for the entire year. But we don't just want to act with no thought. So we don't think it needs to be a long period of time. A week is all we need. But really focus in and be strategic this week so that we can act with speed, yet be efficient for the remainder of the year.
Yep.
I think that's kind of a big part.
Yeah. When I'm building these systems or processes, and we don't have to look at this from a business aspect. We can look at it as a system in your life, like your routine. What do you do? It's the same thing, just in another area. My goal every time that I build one is to break it. Is to break it as soon as I possibly can, to see the holes in it, so then I can make it more simple and more efficient. So I build it and I try to tear it down. Build it, try to tear it down. Build it, try to tear it down. Because when I do that, I'm able to fix all of the things that shouldn't have been there in the first place. Every time. And we can look at that in our routine as well. If let's say we wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Okay. From 5 o'clock to 5:30, we take our time, maybe throw in our clothes, we get ready, we brush our teeth, we go downstairs, we make a coffee, might get in the cold plunge, might read Time magazine, whatever it is, right? From 5 to 5:30, maybe even 6. And then from 6 to 7, all right, go to the gym, maybe come back home, eat, play around with the kids, the dog, the wife. Could be a lot of inefficiency in there. And if we were able to shrink that down to compress time and move with speed, move with urgency, then we'll have another 30 minutes to an hour to do something more productive.
For sure. And it all starts with, like you said, kind of just building a system. So like building a routine, for example, employing it, and then trying to break it as soon as possible.
Yep.
But not break it just for the sake of, being destructive, but break it with the mindset of, hey, how do I get this better? How do I tweak this to be more efficient? And I think the two biggest things from there are A, just fucking start.
Yep.
And then B, quickly figure out how you can make it better. Those paired together, I think, are a recipe for success. And that's actually, for me personally, that's been a big thing. I think it was, I don't want to say budgeting because I hate that word, but personal finance is something my wife and I have been looking at a lot recently. And when we first moved over here, we laid out all of our expenses, the mortgage, the utilities, the this, the that, the groceries, and came up with, okay, hey, realistically, what are we going to spend every month? And that way we knew how much to contribute each to our joint. Because that's how we do it. We have his, hers together. So that number is to figure out, hey, what do we put together? And we have not looked at that number in 3 years. And it is safe to say that number is not accurate anymore.
Yep.
But and maybe it was just not wanting to face certain hard truths. Maybe it was not wanting to shine a light in the darkest parts of your closet. But the only people that not doing that was hurting was us.
Yep.
Because we were operating under an inefficient system and an inaccurate system. So that's what we did this past weekend is we took a flashlight and we're shining. And granted, the number wasn't super far off, but it definitely was more than where we were at, which means we were under contributing to what we needed. And you do that long enough and it's going to cause problems.
Yep.
So for us, that was an inefficiency, and that was a big one. Bless you.
Thank you.
That needed to be nipped in the butt right away. But I'm sure there's things like that in everybody's lives.
Oh, of course. Absolutely. And a lot of it's how you carry yourself too, right? So, and when I say carry yourself, it doesn't mean how you act in public, but what are you doing throughout the day? Because if you look at your day from, let's just say, what's the average day someone's awake?
I don't know. Most people wake up, if they're working, probably at 7 a.m. and go to bed probably around 10, 11 o'clock.
Okay. So how many hours is that? 14 hours?
Sure.
Let's say
I think usually 16 hours
16
is what
hours.
people
Okay.
are
Let's say
awake
16
to
hours. You have a day, your work Your whole day from waking up in the morning to going to bed again is 16 hours. If you go and you recorded everything that you did throughout the day, how much of that is efficient? How much of that is pushing you closer to the life that you want? How much of that is productive? If we asked ourselves that question, maybe 20%, maybe, because there's a lot of going on the phone, there's a lot of having the side conversations, there's a lot of the TV and all this bullshit. But in where a lot of this comes in, the inefficiency is a lack of clarity of where you want to go. When you have the clarity, then you can build the system around that to get there. And a lot of us just go through our day just lollygagging, really. Like, we're not trying. So figure out the clarity of what you want to do, where you want to go, how you want it to look. And then once you figure that out, you can build a system to be able to get yourself there. And it's not going to be efficient the first time you go. There's going to be things where you have to build it and then you have to break it down and rebuild it again. But that efficiency is ultimately going to lead to freedom, and that freedom is the life that you want to live.
I think paired on to that, it can also be a lack of drive, because something that's changed for me recently, and we've aired it out here, reading is really important to me. And I don't necessarily love the act of reading, but I love the act of learning, which to me, reading is a medium for that. So, I read 30 minutes every day, but I was finding that I was getting a backlog of reading. Like, it was, I'd get later in the week and I wouldn't be where I should be based on what I said I wanted to do. And what do you know? Right there in my morning routine was a whole lot of inefficiency. I start my morning working out, but then after I shower and, sit down with a cup of coffee, I'd usually watch television for probably 30 to 45 minutes, give or take. And what do you know? That's a perfect amount of time to get the reading that I needed.
Yep.
So what have I been doing? Instead of watching television, and now that I've been doing it for a week or two, I don't notice any lapse in satisfaction from not watching TV. It's not like I miss that out of my morning routine.
TV in the morning, it's crazy.
I don't miss it at all.
It's crazy.
But now I feel a lot more fulfilled and satisfied that I'm knocking out something important to me that early. And sure enough, it's Tuesday, and I got an hour left of reading for the week.
There you go.
So,
but okay, let me ask you this. So, because we can use this for them and they could figure out, okay, well, there's some parts of inefficiency in my life and I need to make a change. First, how did you identify that you were being inefficient?
It started with the problem,
okay,
which was for me in particular, it was having a backlog of reading.
Okay. But you set a certain goal for yourself, correct?
Yep, okay. Which was the clarity part that you mentioned. It was, this is something I wanted to do.
Okay, so first he had a goal.
Yep.
Okay, and then that goal wasn't being hit.
Correct.
So then you realize that there's a problem within my efficiency because I'm not getting my reading done. It's end of the week and I still have X amount of hours left to finish. Okay. And then what was your thought after that of how to change it?
It was, where is there inefficiency?
Where is there inefficiency?
And I'm not talking about the driving. I'm not talking about the eating. I'm not talking about that kind of stuff. I'm talking about things that aren't actually
necessities.
Yeah, things aren't necessities.
Sure.
And a big one is television and phone time.
Okay.
Huge ones.
Okay. So what you did is you identified places in your life that you could cut or you could eliminate to insert the goal that you had for yourself, which is essentially getting the reading done, the 30 minutes a day.
Correct.
Okay. And then, most importantly, you did it.
Yes.
Okay.
Is you just do it.
Okay. So goal.
Yep.
You identified the problem, which the goal was not being hit.
Yep.
And then you identified an area of where you can make it more efficient.
Yep.
And then you did it.
Correct.
It's that simple.
It's as simple as that. And at the end of the day, there's certain things that you're not going to get away from, right? You're not going to get away from your commute to work. You're not going to get away from working. You're not going to get away from eating, sleeping. There's only so many other hours in the day that you can look at. Now, you don't have to, granted, I would encourage everybody to do a full freaking autopsy of their day, detail every minute, every 15 minutes of your day, and just see where the time lies and goes. But if you're not that gung-ho about it, start with this. how many hours a day do you spend watching television? How many hours? Because I guarantee you the number is probably north of 3 or 4.
Then you want to tie in the next big one to that, or maybe the biggest one?
What is your phone?
Is the phone.
See, here's and granted that would be the next step is for a week, or even fuck it in a day. Mark down how long you're watching television. Mm-hmm. The next step would be how much time of the day are you spending looking at social media? Now that's the silent killer, because that'll be 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, another 5 minutes there, 20 minutes there. It stacks up very quickly. Television is easier to measure because usually you're sitting down for a given period. And I know that's actually something I said to my wife the other day is, hey, I don't want to watch any more than 1 episode a night of whatever show we're watching. The other time could be spent playing a board game. It could be going on a walk. It could be doing something that's more of a quality time thing, because I know that's what I need to do more of, that isn't watching television. Mm-hmm. And what do you know? There's probably an additional 2-ish hours every evening that opens up. Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. That it was just there all along. So if and here's the thing, look, this is not for the people who are content with mediocrity. This podcast isn't for people who are content with mediocrity. If you have big goals, big, hairy, audacious goals, that's what PBD says. If you got goals that the average person doesn't want, well, then you're going to have to do things that the average person doesn't do.
Yep.
Which means you're not going to have as much time watching television. That doesn't mean no time. It's just not as much. You're not going to spend as much time scrolling social media. You're not going to spend as much time going to the bars, drinking, whatever it is that you waste time on that isn't in the pursuit of your goals.
If you got big goals, you got to be efficient. Have to be.
You do. Because whether you like it or not, there is 24 hours in a day. You should spend a good portion of that sleeping. The rest of it, it's up to you. There's certain things you have to do, and there's a lot of things you don't. So you got to ask yourself, what's going to come first? Progression towards your goals, or this intermittent satisfaction?
Yeah, because that intermittent satisfaction, that's going to last a lifetime, and it'll never go away. If you don't make a change, and then you will always be where you're currently at, and you'll never achieve your goals.
No, not a chance.
Nope.
So
won't happen. Can't have both.
Take this as a wake up, a warning, stick with the needle to, hey, go and, we're halfway through the year. No, we're not actually, but close. We're close enough to halfway through the year. Now is a good time. Now is a midway point to go in deep dive on your life, see where you can be more efficient, because the only person whose goals are waiting are yours.
Yep.
We're going after ours. So, good luck.
See you next time.